Welcome to Natty 19's first edition of Behind the Scenes, where we'll take a look at Episode 1 of Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah, so joining me right now, we have a moment where we can all sit back and chill and talk for a bit about episode 1. I'm Jonathan Marshall. You're good. I'm Jonathan Marshall, and I've been DMing. I started DMing this Tomb of Annihilation adventure, and we'll go around again. You guys are probably by now familiar with Chuck playing the role of Quincy Fallow, and then Copernicus Hart.
That's correct.
Played by my buddy James. Christy Lee is playing the role of Aramay Finvane.
Hello.
And we don't have...
So, one of my pressing questions from the first episode is, what exactly is mousy hair?
That's a good question. I was wondering that myself.
Mousy hair is like between, it's like darker than dirty blonde. That's how I envision it anyway. It's like darker than dirty blonde. It's not quite blonde. It's not quite brown.
Is it messy?
Yeah.
Is it messy?
It's almost dull too. Like, you know how like you think of when you think of like more high maintenance in quotations woman, she's got shiny hair. She takes really good care of it. I kind of think of it dull because she's not conditioning it. She's not like taking really great care of it.
So mangy kind of a little bit.
No.
I think of like mousy people as like a little timid,
yeah,
a little plain.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of plain. Kind of just, but brown. It's definitely when I think of mousy hair, it's like not blonde.
Really? Because I think of gray when I hear mouse.
No,
maybe
see,
it's just
I thought
area.
brown.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the...
That's interesting because like we live in an area where brown mice are kind of rare.
I don't know.
Brown and gray mice.
You think so?
I do.
I always see the gray ones. Is it an age
but every
thing?
storybook, all the children's book, they're always brown mice.
Fair enough.
I'm pretty sure there's like a song there. Little brown mice. Little...
See
No,
how
that's...
they run.
I think that's three. Is it
far as I
three?
know.
I think those
I think
are
it's three blind mice. Not brown. They're blind.
And there's 3 of them.
And there are 3 of them. And I don't think their colors are revealed in the song at all.
3 brown.
Shit,
Jesus,
maybe we
you
should,
have 2
we should
children.
pull out the mouse guard instead of chit-chat.
Yeah.
Play some mouse
Guard.
guard?
I liked mouse guard.
That was fun.
Anyone else have any questions about anything that happened during the episode?
Yeah, the coin.
The coin in the chest that fell out of the 5th chest.
What would have happened?
What would have happened? I put that in there. I thought of it like the day before we played, and I wanted an alternative. I wanted there to be somewhat of a inadvertent choice that you guys make that would spell out your entry into Chult. And essentially what I mean by that is you could arrive by ship as your characters planned, or based on your decisions or your inability to notice this coin, you could arrive shipwrecked, maybe 10 or 15 miles outside of Port Nyanzaru.
That would have been fun. You should have just wrecked us
and you
anyway.
would have had to kind of make your way to the city through the jungle, through this alien jungle. So yeah, I wanted there. It's taking a page out of like
I would
some.
have lost my gear.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you guys, who knows what would have happened? I thought that was a nice little. It was fun for me because I like to see, especially starting a new campaign, I like to see who has the initiative. I like to see what characters do what, and I think it played out great. Quincy, I always pictured as this kind of timid, is that supposed to happen? Not really the kind of take action guy.
We were talking about that. I like that moment because I find Irame and Quincy to be similar in experience. And I thought it was a cool moment for the 2 of them to distinguish a little bit difference in character, where Quincy was like, should we get that? And then Irame just ran out and got it,
Yeah, because you guys are a little similar
yes,
in
but I
the
thought
regard
that was
of
kind
age
of a cool
and...
moment. For us.
Definitely, you guys are more noobish, whereas me and Kway are
More
a little bit
veteran.
more experienced, and I noticed we both have the same alignment, which is weird. You know, like I thought of like this character and his attitude. Though K-Way's taking it more towards like the arrogant side, and I like that.
Right.
It's definitely
I do. I
lot
really like
different.
that K-Way chose some like unamiable characteristics. I think that's
yeah.
There's,
Always
Yeah, it
fun.
might be a bit abrasive to some NPCs that they run into.
Yeah.
You know, might generate a little bit of a situation.
yeah. I'm always
Right.
used to Swaney doing it. Swaney says something, and I'm like,
Yeah,
She's
you
gonna
are kind
kill
of
us.
famous for
she's
it.
gonna kill us.
I don't have any foundation for this impression, but my impression, just based solely on your personalities, is that K-Way. What's K-Way's character's name? I'm not
Zavril?
gonna remember everybody's
Zavril.
character's names right now. Oh yeah, so Zavril, even though he's arrogant and he's supposed to be this monster hunter, I don't trust that he has the skills yet. Like he might be sort of like
I got that same impression. Yeah.
Flaunt.
playing
Like he's-
himself
Yeah.
up, and then, but for some reason, with Copernicus, I actually believe that he's
Yeah, he's-
capable of a brawl or of taking
Yeah.
care of himself.
Yeah, he's murdered.
It could be the voice.
Could be,
Could be.
We've
Right.
also talked a little bit. Well, I won't get too much into that, but like Copernicus has been on the docks around. Was it Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, the gate.
Yep.
The gate, as he calls it.
And he's half drow, so there's a lot going on there in terms
Right.
of like what kind of character, like your general character profile. Like drow aren't known for being, all talk and no action. They're known for being a little bit on the tough side,
Oh, speaking of the
or
drow,
capable anyway.
so what made you decide you're half drow?
Yeah.
What gave you the idea for the half human ear and half drow ear? I thought that was interesting.
I don't know. I just thought it'd be cool. Because he's half. Well, just like a half elf.
Chaff.
That's
So-
like what you'd picture when you hear half elf immediately.
Well, because a lot of times, like a half elf in stories I've read, they'll have like a human beard, or they'll have aspects of both.
Right.
But I hate discolored eyes on like dogs, like where one eye is one way and one's a different color. I don't know. I thought instead of doing something like that, I'd do the ears. So like one ear's pointy and one ear's human, though he has dark elf complexion. I mean, so I guess like just walking by him, you'd probably think he's a dark elf. He looks more dark elf, though a big one because he's human size, 5'7", 175 pounds. Like that would be obesely overweight dark elf.
What else did I wanted to? Oh, well, I still have you. Let's go back to the Syndra Sylvain introduction.
So was that the same Syndra? Was that who we met in the cabin at the end of Abyss?
Yes, it was just a slightly different kind of time
Time frame.
frame.
Right.
It was before. It was.
Because I had
It
a
was-
friend actually asking like about the end of Abyss. He hadn't quite gotten there yet, and how does it line up? And I said it just loosely
Ties together.
ties together. It's all new characters.
Yeah, I mean I threw it together really in hopes to have a little bit of a segue for
Yeah,
you
just-
guys. Didn't really expect anything to come of it.
Right, just a common thread.
Common thread,
I liked
yeah.
I liked it.
Well, Copernicus is Ash's father.
Right.
Yeah, I think I picked that up
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not so general, or it's not that it can't make sense. The time frame the only thing that I feel like I have to kind of do a little work to make it connect is the ship, how it panned out and it went to the ship. That clearly wasn't you guys' ship, clearly, because you guys weren't there yet. You hadn't left yet,
Yeah, I think I caught that, and it immediately made sense that you repeatedly mentioned that they've sent many ships already.
That's
and
right.
Syndra personally has funded many expeditions already, so that made sense to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it makes sense, but and from a cinematic standpoint, you'd want it to be you guys' ship, like your new character's ship pulling into the harbor,
So when those characters from Abyss met her, that would have been
Earlier.
earlier.
She was like a
She
little
read
less
the note.
decrepit.
Yeah, that I worked to make fit. Yeah, the note from the Harpers saying, "Please return to your estate in Baldur's Gate, where you can be taken care
Yeah, I
of."
didn't pick that up.
Yeah. So, and that's where you guys met her in her estate in Baldur's Gate. What I wanted to know was what was going through Copernicus's mind when, even after being warned by Alarod to be on your best behavior, I want to ask you about the unhinged comment.
I know.
Yeah,
Your
that's
roommate
just,
was like,
You know the one I'm talking about? And you're like, before you came unhinged.
yeah.
I mean, what was Copernicus doing? Was he almost challenging her authority in that regard, or were you just?
Well, we went from like sitting like, I don't know if I explained it right before or right after you asked like, what's everybody's demeanor, and Copernicus is kicking back on a couch drinking a glass of wine, and then she's smashing a glass. Like maybe that was me coming through just looking at the situation. Like if I was chilling, drinking some liquor, and then the other people get into a heated argument and smash a glass, I'd be like, yo, can we all just relax a little? Like that's, in a fantasy world so much, but if you actually put yourself in that situation, like right now, if I was to get up and smash my glass against the wall, you all would look at me like I have 3 heads.
Yes, absolutely.
In my brain, when I listened to the episode again, I made it make sense by thinking like Copernicus is the eldest and most experienced of us all, and he's gruff. And while like we know a little of Syndra and we're respectful of her, and also because she's funding, our adventure, there's still that only goes so far when you're who you are,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being who he is,
Do you think it was knowing what you know about Syndra? Why do you suppose she brought it to that level so quickly, smashing the glass?
Maybe she feels that she's on a time crunch. She's her candle's
Well, what did
burning.
she say? Like,
Exactly.
don't question me, essentially.
I don't have time for people that
Don't
question
trust
my
me,
every
yeah.
move or something like
Nope.
that.
So pretty much, yeah, I made that when I put that in there. That's where I was going with it. She's dying.
oh, right.
She's
Yeah.
been
got
through
the death
this so
curse.
many times already, and she's trying to maintain her sanity in the process, even though she has sent expedition after expedition and no word from them. And now she's doing it again because there's nothing else for her to do at this point. But now she's joining you guys. She's, for the first time, she's getting on the ship, and she's going to Chult herself. She wants a little bit more of a presence there this time. So that she's definitely done sending people out of the mainland. Whatever expeditions happen.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around how we got drafted into this. Like it's never really gone explained,
What do you mean? How you ended up with the 3C shipping and freight?
Right.
Oh, I left that up to you guys.
Right.
We talked about a little bit in the early, when we were setting up for this adventure, especially you and I, we talked about a few different ways to kind of integrate with your background. You were thinking the criminal background, and maybe you owed a debt to society. You were in jail, and the only freedom would be to aid this renowned merchant. I figured it'd be best to leave you guys up to your own imaginations and come up with a way why.
Well, not so much that, but just this group with like the inexperience and the experience of the PCs, and
Yeah.
it's a crazy group.
Yeah, that was based on for one, lack of options,
Right.
because she had already sent so many other, not necessarily from the Three C's shipping company, but she already assembled so many of these groups. She pretty much had a list of skill sets that she sent out to all of these people who owed her favors or respected her enough to listen. And the Three C's shipping was one of those groups. And this is what they came up with. So it might just be a lack of options within the 3C shipping company. You guys are their best that match that that skill set. You know,
Irme was looking for a way to Chult or for a way closer to that adventure that she wants to be on. So, and I imagine her. I see her kind of having a duality to her where she appears kind of mousy and bookish. She is also stubborn and secure in herself in a lot of ways. And I imagined her being pushy about going on this. Maybe even flashing her magic, which she would normally do. Maybe enchanting someone to convince them to talk to somebody for her. Maybe, even when they're like, what are you going to do? What purpose are you going to serve? Maybe even, like, I thought of a scene maybe where she fucking levitates the room up or something and then drops it back down. And she can't do that normally, but, like, her emotions got her and she kind of fucking was like, I can do this. And she's almost a little bit ashamed. Like, she wants to go on merit alone, but she had to fucking flash some magic, to get her ass on the ship.
Yeah, Quincy was his family's been in service of the Three C's shipping and crate for a while, and his father had, his father had been working for them. His grandfather worked on the dock, probably for multiple shipping companies, but basically they know what his education is because his father works for them and has been paying for Quincy's education out of the pockets of the Three C's shipping and freight, on loan essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
So they know what his scholarly aptitudes are. They know that he's into history and archaeology and that that he can contribute in that arena. But to pull it back a little bit, back to Syndra, when Copernicus stood up to Syndra. Is it Syndra? Syndra
Yes.
that way.
Sylvain. Yeah.
Sylvain, yeah. I think that Quincy might have actually found that a little bit amusing. That he would never show it outwardly. He doesn't look at people like important people as being more important than others. I think he has a fundamental respect for every human being, and he always treats every person that he meets with, politely and with respect. But I don't think he holds people in positions of power as being any better than anybody else.
So you would have liked, kind of like that remark.
Yeah, not in like a smug sort of, not in a rub it in her face kind of way, but
Right.
more like, more like at least we're all on the same plane. We're all on a level. And yeah, sometimes people do things that are a bit rash, and sometimes they get called out on them. But
I like that.
Yeah, speaking of the 3C shipping company, speaking of the 3C shipping company, we could talk about where that came from too, because that's not in the book. That was actually Quincy's. I didn't even hear about this idea until I read Quincy's backstory. It was as you just heard, he integrated his father, his grandfather. This is all part of his backstory, and I thought it was, as soon as I read it, or heard about it, I thought that was the key that was missing in this adventure, in this Tomb of Annihilation book. We talked about it a little bit off air, how I felt that, with no disrespect at all to the writers, I just kind of felt that the book itself, the method of delivering this kind of save the world quest to a bunch of low-level characters, didn't really make much sense for two reasons, in game and out of game. The in game, for obvious reasons, you're low level and you're not even going to really, know where to begin on such an adventure. And for more of an out of game reason, you're going to get to Chult. You know the importance of this death curse, and we need to stop it. You're not going to want to do anything else. No side quest that is offered in the book is going to even remotely catch your interest,
Yeah, we actually ran into that when we were playing Abyss, and our characters were kind of desperate. We were being chased by drow. We wanted to get out of every city that we came across. We were like, especially the ones with the Dorger, right? Which city was
we
that?
immediately went for the main quest that
Gracklestew.
took us out of wherever we were.
Oh yeah, we didn't spend any time really in being in Gracklestew, really getting a sense of the Dorger. We felt like we were being chased. We wanted to get the hell out of the Underdark.
It was a sense of urgency that superseded everything to follow.
Exactly.
What he was just talking about, we ran half of Out of the Abyss. I had a blast doing it. We kind of did that to get our feet wet. It had been a long time since we played, and we knew we wanted to do a podcast of sorts. So we
Practice.
We used it for practice, and we learned a lot of valuable lessons doing that. And that being one of the main ones for me anyway, was that that sense of urgency kind of took over. So this time I thought that three seas shipping and freight idea was a great segue into this adventure for low-level characters, and it would eliminate that, and having that kind of dual quest going. You have Syndra, who gave you a mission to save the world, and then you had Alarad, who was like, you guys we're not gonna save the world, guys, okay? Like, that's
I think
great,
it would
but
really work if we all did not necessarily a backstory or a history of our characters, but specifically talk about why we are on that fucking boat. Like, personally. Whether it's like an episode or a behind the scenes, where as our characters we explain or we tell a story or narrate a story about our character as to why. Like, for instance, you explain the Thieves Guild.
we went into it a little bit.
We did to an extent. I think we touched on all of them. But like, if one of us is asking, how did this happen? How did we all get together? Our listeners might be asking that.
Yeah, that I agree wholeheartedly, and I kind of like that. I like how right now we have a vague idea of why every single person is on the ship. Throughout the adventure, I like the idea of peppering in
the backs.
a little bit more details here and there between you guys of just kind of the meat and potatoes and all the broccoli and everything with it, of why you guys are on the ship. And I think doing that in flashbacks or just general campfire stories can solve that for sure.
Yeah,
and be entertaining.
Actually, like, one of the reasons why we touched upon one of the reasons why Quincy wanted to go on this mission was because he had that map. And while I was listening back to the episode, there was something Quincy said that I didn't feel like it got through, was that he was embarrassed about having the map, or that was a reason.
I noticed that on the re-listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he embarrassed?
I didn't pick up on it even when I re-listened to it, but you do say that. You're right.
Right. And because while I was talking about the map, I forgot to mention that, like, the place that the map is to, and the map itself is not credible, and so he has like this sort of fantasy that this map that's unlikely to go any place like meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, he still has this sort of hope of finding this place. So it's almost like a childish pursuit, or a quixotic.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, instead you're just like, I'm embarrassed I have this map. We're all like, okay.
Right.
Can we see it?
Yep.
Yeah, that threw me the fuck off. Can we see it right in the middle of like we're all sort of hanging out with
You know
the
what?
fun.
Oh yeah, and then
I
you're like
actually
back in
didn't-
my room. And then,
I actually didn't mean at that moment, like, you know, and then,
But then Copernicus
Yeah,
is
it's
like,
like-
yeah, pull it out.
no.
Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, clear all the wine bottles off of her table, spread the map out. All right, here we are.
that's me once
I like-
again injecting myself because I love maps.
Yeah.
So like,
I had a really cool imagery after we were telling the story of maybe your map rolled out on the table with Irame's compass that's so important to her
Nice.
sitting on it, and then maybe your stones scattered like on one corner, you know?
That's another
That'd be
thing
some
that's
good fan
that's
art.
Yeah.
that's another thing that's worth mentioning is that your Arame's compass is part of her background that she chose. Quincy's map is given to him by his background that he chose. So these items are just kind of, you know, those when you're creating a character in 5e and you choose a background and it kind of throws in little random items that, you know, they seem generic, you know?
Right.
It just goes to show that you can really
Make them your own.
yeah, you can really bring them to life in a story sense, you know. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with the compass and the map and Copernicus's stones, which aren't part of his background, but they'll.
well, kinda.
Yeah.
You know.
You playing with them right now?
Yeah. Twirl 'em around my hands.
What else did we want to touch on?
Oh, I wanted to talk about voices. So, like, I hated mine. I was like, oh, God. That's awful.
It'll get better.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. I was like, I'm sure I'll just slowly, like, get there. It's, like, difficult to change. It's difficult for me to change my voice without it, like, heightening. It just immediately, if I'm not focused on keeping my tone low, it'll go up. If, like, I have to consciously not do that. It's almost like when you answer the phone and you're like, hi, Mickey's Roadside Cafe. This is Christy Lee. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Yeah.
fucking talk like that. That's
Right.
ridiculous.
Quincy, like I felt Quincy's was inconsistent.
Yeah.
And there were some versions of it that I was using that I didn't think were quite right because even though he's educated to a degree, he still comes from, a modest background. He's only and his father's only somewhat educated, and his grandfather was not educated at all.
Yeah,
You
you're
know what
right.
I mean?
It
So
does.
it's sort
You
of-
do kind of get the air of Quincy that he might have a little bit of money, or
Yeah,
you know what I
and-
mean, be of an upper class a little bit. You do get that air.
And this is where it's hard to find the sweet spot because he's not poor. Like
Yeah.
his family's on the verge of becoming of escalating,
Yeah.
like raising their social class.
It's almost like balancing the intellectual side of him with the fucking economic side.
Just so
like,
you know,
know what I
Chris is
mean?
making these
Yeah.
hand motions like a fucking cyborg.
Yeah. Like the book Martin Eden by Jack London's.
Well, instead of
great
like
book.
singing in
Deals
the
with that.
shower,
Yeah.
my wife's picking on me because I guess she's walking by the bathroom and I'm talking like Copernicus in the shower, and like I don't even realize like I'm doing it out
Shampoo
loud.
is better.
Shampoo is better.
Find it rather boring to wash my hair. She's
I
like,
never
"What the fuck are you
liked bar
doing in there?"
soap.
Leave me alone, woman. I'm playing with my stones.
She would expect that, but
Yeah, I was holding my toothbrush on guard. I am no slouch with this.
That's funny because speaking of voices, I have always sucked at staying with an NPC, staying with a voice. You know, Lady Sylvain, I can start it out, you know, but then as I get going, my normal voice comes in as I'm reading, you know,
It's a lot of work.
reading the dialogue and stuff. It is. You have to like constantly. Some are easier than others. Some voices I found come a lot more natural, like Berkeley.
Yeah.
You got a good eye for the stars. Like I feel like that's me inside. You know?
I think that has to do with the
Yeah,
characters and
yeah.
knowing the characters.
I
feeling that,
think in a past life I was Berkeley. You know what I mean? You got a good eye for the stars, kid. But yeah, you know, I think. But at the same time, I don't want to be constricted to just the ones that I feel comfortable. I want to try to get comfortable with new ones.
It
you
is
know?
difficult.
So I need to practice and practice.
I watched like several videos on it, and one of the things was where you put your accent on, a sentence, a phrase, where you heighten and lower your voice, all those things, and I cannot get that part. And that's the part I realized I couldn't get, whereas it's like the phrase is there, right? And like, because I kind of wanted to go with like a transatlantic thing, so she'd use the right words, like wonderful, like it's not something, stuff like that that's a little bit different and offbeat than what people would normally say. But if you're not thinking about it, or you're thinking about it too much, you don't put like the accent in the right part of the phrase, and it doesn't sound anything like you want it to.
I think that's thinking about it too much already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you come up with 2 rules or 3 rules that you
That's
work on.
what I was telling John.
And then after that becomes second nature, then maybe introduce like another element.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that it's easier to do when you're just working on one character. When you're the GM and you have like 20 different voices that you have to be fresh on, then it's a little harder to take that approach. I mean, one of the things I did when we first started playing Rune Lords, and I was like, there's a whole, at the beginning, you spend a lot of time in town. There's a shit ton of NPCs. As I wrote down like little notes about each NPC's voice, like just a few descriptive words. And that way, like when I saw them on the list, I'd be like, okay, the mayor's supposed to be this way,
That's a good idea, yeah.
It was a little helpful, but I think I let that fall off a little bit. I have to get back. I have to tighten that up.
Yeah, I think too, sometimes like if you remember a couple character traits, and I think that's what I'm going to go with. Like rather than focusing on any kind of accent or voice, maybe just like if I focus on the fact that Irame will be almost obnoxiously positive all the time, as well as, you know what I mean? One other characteristic, her voice will just do it on its own.
Yeah.
She is going to sound a little bit more high pitched and a little bit more excited than the average person, because she is in general. There was,
I should figure out which panel it was, but when I was at PAX Unplugged, there was a panel and they talked a little bit about voices, and actually they were specifically talking about it in the context of Tomb of Annihilation.
Neato.
And one of the suggestions was not to worry so much about like trying to mimic accents, but instead to come up with like characteristics. They also recommended a book. So I can't remember the title, but I should maybe it's on they were recording it for Twitch, so maybe it's easy to find the recording on Twitch.
Yeah, that's because I know that I fail in the accent department.
That's where you focus.
I still like to try. I still like to dabble and try it, because I want to get better at it. But I do try to put more of an emphasis on, because of that failing, I try to add more details into personality traits and stuff like that, like Daniel Devitas with the fruit juice on everything, and
Yeah, you pulled that full circle.
Yeah, that was fun. I like the fruit juice.
you may get used to that, because that's a part of his character, There's
Oh God, I could just picture Danny DeVito with fucking fruit all over his face. If you're listening to this, Mr. DeVito, I respect your craft.
Continue to drink fruit juice if you do.
But that's what's so brilliant about him. I mean, that's what he's meant to convey when he's like, slurping on the fruit like that.
I'm hoping someday we'll be big enough to where we can have a special guest appearance of Daniel Devitas.
Yeah, played by
actual Danny DeVito.
Real life in person. That would be great.
Wouldn't it?
Maybe if he gets Alzheimer's and gets senile, we could convince him that this is like...
I thought about that when we talked about Supernatural. I was like, maybe one day Sam and Dean will hear this.
Of course, that's what you thought.
We'll have a special guest.
Fangirl.
No.
If Devitas lives long enough.
What? Cappy's going to kill him?
Yeah, who knows what could happen in the jungles of Cholt.
Hey, did you guys notice that Irame wears glasses even though elves have perfect vision?
Good
Huh?
point. Good
Oh,
point.
No, I didn't know elves had perfect vision.
They
You?
have like their senses or elven senses are fucking keen.
That's right. Keen
That's right,
senses
that's
is
right.
yep,
Okay.
that's
So
right.
that's a fun one. I'll probably bring that back to maybe the discovery of her magic, maybe an accident or something.
I like to call them powers myself. Maybe that's just me. If I was your class, I'd.
My powers.
Sorcerer.
That's what
Yeah.
I would. Because I think of
I
sorcerers.
don't
like,
know much about sorcerer.
Sorcerers are like the X-Men.
It's more
That's-
innate than it is.
Yeah.
That's what I
studied.
picture. I picture like a mutant. You know, they
Mutant
have
powers?
they
Yeah,
have
especially
powers.
Irame's because she's the what is it? I always want to say chaotic, but it's what's the name of the sorcery?
Wild mage.
Wild mage.
She's the wild mage archetype. Yeah.
So I imagine her discovering it, and maybe there was some sort of accident. And where I was going with the glasses, why would she wear glasses? And then I was thinking maybe there was a flash or something, and
Yeah, when your powers manifested.
and I wounded my eyes somehow.
What else, to bring it back around, what else happened during that last session?
Well, let's see. We got to quickly recap the whole thing, right? And in timeline, we met up with Silver Syndra.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went from Syndra to the warehouse, and we had our meeting with Alarod.
Yeah, the warehouse. That's interesting. That we could talk about that for a
Rat
second.
infested warehouse.
The rat infested warehouse. I threw that in there initially as I was gonna start, instead of doing like a ship thing like we had talked about for session 0. When we couldn't do that, I was like, well, maybe we can squeeze in and have everybody test the waters in combat with their characters. And I was going to do, and because it was like a memory thing, I was going to do like everybody's at level 1 and do like a level 1 battle where you guys
That would've been
actually
tough.
cleaned. Right, would have been, well, it wouldn't have been too hard with Beyond. You could
Right.
just
Right.
done. But that was going to be one of those jobs because one of the jobs that you guys did for the 3C's shipping company, you guys already cleared out the rats from the warehouse and this and that. But I felt that we were, the time that we were taking on the episode and everything like that, it just didn't pan out that way. So I kind of, hand waved but the warehouse itself, the warehouse scene, really was to portray the expanding nature of the 3C shipping company, and also I felt that the warehouse scene gave Alarod a little bit more personality when he helped the worker pick the crate up and put it on the
Yeah,
pallet.
that was. I immediately picked up on that as a character building
I
moment.
completely missed it. Not only while we were playing, but I listened to the episode twice.
Yeah.
And still missed it.
Yeah, just like as soon as he did it, I was like, okay, so he's a cool dude, or he's just good at pretending he's a cool dude.
He seemed pretty cool anyway.
Yeah.
It's-
He wears eyeliner, of course he's cool.
He seems fair enough, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Beyond, it could have been, and he's a cool guy, but on top of that, his role in the 3C's freight and shipping is he has that role for a reason.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does.
Yeah,
And
charming.
he might be a boss. This is kind of what I wanted to portray with that scene, is he might be a boss, but whatever gets the job done quickly and efficiently. And if he's walking by someone and they're struggling with something, he doesn't just see a struggling worker. He sees this job
Progress
needs to get
halted.
done. Yeah, this
Yeah.
job needs to get done, and this, not that this man is inadequate, but if I help him, it'll get done that much faster. Yeah, and I want to bring more of that. I don't want to talk too much on it because I want it to come out organically. But I think with the 3C shipping, I want all of those members to share similar qualities in terms of the business mind.
Are we going to see more of Alarod?
I don't have anything currently planned, but I don't have too far ahead planned anyway. So I can't say yes or no on that. You know, I wanted
Maybe once that were the company's more established in Chult, that would be when he would come over to run things.
If I were to answer now, I would
'Cause-
definitely foresee a visit at some point, a checkup scene. You guys might come back from an expedition, and Alarad might be there checking up on things, making sure everything, you know. But as to when that is, I do know that I wanted you guys to have a team beyond just you guys. Daniel Devitas.
Support.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel Devitas is part of that team.
Now, what about the guys running that ship? They're
They're sailing off again.
Gusan. Yeah, Gusan
there's Gusan
isn't
and-
a member of the Merchants League or 3C Shipping. He is just a captain of a ship as far as you guys know.
Berkeley.
Yep.
Yep.
That's an independent crew is a good way to describe it.
Yeah,
Hired
I
by
could see them
Syndra.
picking up contracts to do shipments for various companies.
Yeah, the 3C's freight and shipping just really started getting into oceanic trade, you know. They don't have a fleet or anything quite yet. All right, well, we're just about out of time here. I want to thank you guys for the chat. I thought it was very insightful. I like being able to kind of go behind the scenes a little bit, even though we just started. I'm sure it'll get a lot more interesting as we get more content out on the table. But yeah, for now, we'll see you next time we do something like this.
Later.